So the mail just came and something fun just arrived. Wonder what this could be. We're pretty much into it. A little annoyed that, you know, the box has everything on top, which is usually, you know, the side that you would think everything is facing, but apparently it wasn't. Everything was facing down, but no worries. I don't really care. It's fine. Ooh. I guess that's the build cheat. Feels pretty good. I mean, it says 3M, so you know it's good. And you get 2 little packs of PLA. Not bad. I mean, you can at least print a test cube with it to verify it. Set this to autofocus. There we go. There, that's much easier. I don't have to keep working with it. Okay, let's pop it open. Well, there she is. All pop. So I just saved you the trouble watching me fumble with taking everything out with one hand and just put the camera down. Here's something that's weird. This is the first Anet machine that I've ever seen that has a manual. That's like a step up in the world for them. Just the ability to have paper with something in it to tell you how to put these things together. But, you know, really looking at it, there's not that much to put together. They've already pre-assembled everything that really matters for you. However, I already see one problem, and my friend Tim pointed this out to me pretty much right off the bat. So, let's focus in here. These face the bed. That's your motor connector. And they face inwards. And the bed's locked down, so I can't really move it. That's not really the most ideal position. They really should be sticking towards... I'd have them sticking the other way, to be honest. Because it keeps the wiring out of the way. You don't want those to rip out, because that's just a whole slew of problems waiting. The thing that I really am impressed with, look at this control box. It actually has a rotary knob, not the stupid 5-button deal that they love to put on their printers. I know the A6 comes with a bigger screen and blah blah blah. And speaking of which, it's not the 2004. That is definitely a step up in the world. So, control box looks pretty good. It feels solid. It looks great. It actually has cable wraps on it. Kind of like, you know, what you would get with an ATX power supply. You don't have to fiddle with the actual crap that you do it yourself. Got a wheeled carriage here. Wheels feel pretty okay. Now the bigger complaint is the fact that they use T-slots instead of V. Now we're just going to step over here really fast. So I just completed doing this, and this is a V-slot setup. So, you know, the wheels ride and they go that way and whatever. You know, their A2 uses it too, but theirs are horizontally mounted, so that's not too bad. Pretty much all 3 of these are Anet machines. You know, you have the red Anet 1.0 boards. They're tried and true workhorses based on the 1284p. Everyone loves them. But of course, you know, this middle one with all of its wacky doodads has a ramps board, because why not? And then this little guy up under the table, that's just the Tronxy, or Tron XY, whatever you want to call it. I recently did a review on it, and it's not a bad printer. It's actually doing really good now. I'm printing a Fang mount for the one right here. But it's not a bad printer. It's actually doing pretty well. Now, I'm really excited for this one. I know everyone says it's a CR10 clone. I can see it, but, you know, these are so similar to all these designs that, you know, I had a friend say any monkey could put these together. it's simple logic. It's like a car. You know, you have four wheels and a chassis. It just goes together like that. It's not rocket science. But let's keep looking at everything on this. The bed size is a weird thing to me because usually you have a pretty square plate that's about 220 by 220 millimeters. This one is apparently 220 by 270, and that's just a little bizarre to me because I really wish that they went with the standard 200 by 300, sort of like this guy, you know. But, you know, I'm sure they have some reason. Probably they have a lot of those in supply. And then you have the two 220s here, and then I think the Tronxy's the same way. So, you know, whatever their reasoning is, I don't really care. It's just a bigger size. Is it a CR10? No, those are huge. But am I excited for a bigger build volume? Yes, I am. Especially because they never really played around with the XY. They always seem to go upwards in Z, like the A2 up there. They went up in the Z, but never extended their stock bed size. So that's really exciting to me. So looking at it, it looks pretty sturdy. You know, you have your extruder right here. I like that it rides up and down. The Bowden tube should just pretty much go from here to there. Great, because it'll prevent it from kinking up if you have it up here, you know, like these. And, you know, you don't want to jam or anything like that. Something to point out is they still use these couplers, and they work. I just don't think that they're ideal. You really want to use something like these plumb couplers that I'm going to install on this one, probably during the build, just to have them on there. But yeah, overall, it feels sturdy. Let's check out the bed. So here's the bed. It uses a 2040 and 2020s right here. You know, it doesn't feel bad. I can see why people would say these aluminum parts don't feel as solid. And honestly, I would want a little bit more bracing on the sides because, you know, that tower is pretty heavy. And if you start to really crank up the speed, it's going to start flexing around. People really complain about these printed parts. You know, Prusa, he does it too. And honestly, these aren't the most well-printed parts, but they're holding the rods just fine. I really like these caps too. I know they're pretty much there for aesthetical purposes, but who cares? You know, they look cool. One thing to point out too is this bed connector. I don't like seeing them. I've had a few of them burn up. It's just a good idea to go ahead and just solder the wires directly onto the board. These connectors, they're just not good. You know, you can get away with it for a little bit, but as soon as they start kind of flexing and getting a small gap, they'll start heating up and they'll start melting. So just do yourself a huge favor. Just take this connector off and solder it on. It'll save you a headache in the long run. I like these nice rubber feet too. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Well, I have it together. That did not take long at all. That's really surprising. And again, I've heard that the Creality CR10 is pretty much the same way. Pull this out of the way. In the time lapse, you can see that I put some Kapton over on the extruder just to kind of keep everything together. I have to say, one thing I really hated about doing this, and this is probably the worst part, and it's a very minor complaint. Let's get up in here. These tiny wires. Try to get the autofocus here. You know what, I'm just going to turn off autofocus. It's making me mad. Yeah, there we go. These tiny end-stop connectors, you know, I thought they would be great. They really don't want to bite down, so I just took the clippers and kind of crushed it down a little bit so it would bite down. I don't trust it. I really don't trust it. I'm probably going to end up either putting a small dot of glue on them or just soldering it directly. Other things. There's a tiny bit of play in the Z motor mounts here. They're really thin too, and there's only 2 points of contact, as you can see from these plates. Can I get up in here? There's only 2 points of contact. I don't really know if that's going to translate into any degradation in print quality. Probably not, but you know, we'll pretty much see. Now, another thing to kind of look at here, you noticed in the time lapse, I switched these around. I said this before, it's a good idea to do this. Tim pointed this out to me. It's pretty much a great idea because your bed is moving in on this side. You really don't want any wires come in up under here and kind of screw you up. Yeah, because if this bed, there's a lot of torque going through this. If it grabs those wires, it'll rip out your Z motor. When these Z motors go out, you know, it's just going to start lifting on one side. It could bend the rod. Who knows what it could do. So just go ahead and do that when you're building. I haven't put on the Bowden tube yet. Just took it out of the package. Let's kind of check the ends here. Make sure they're not. Yeah, they look okay. Just pop it on in. And ooh, they give you a lot. Might be a good idea to cut that down. Because really you don't need that much. I'll leave it for now. We'll see how it does. It's really not too bad to have it like that. It's better to be a little bit looser than too tight and kinking up on you. But yeah, I guess you. Let's go ahead and put the build tack or build tack on the bed. So it's just this black sheet that we got. It's kind of cool that they supplied it, and it really completes the look of the machine with the black and green. I mean, sure, it provides some function too, since PLA will stick pretty readily to it. Just kind of sit the camera down here for a moment while I use both hands. Boom, boom, boom. Now, I would assume that you should do this pretty much like any other large sticky piece of equipment. Just kind of grab, find your corners. You know, sometimes life sucks when you're a perfectionist. Just kind of find your corners here. Oh, this stuff is sticky. Which I guess that's a good thing, considering. Oh, come on, just get on there. Just kind of lay on down. And now you can just. Oh, is it hanging off the side? Yep. Come on. I really hate doing this because I think I'm doing the right thing and it looks good, and as soon as I get across to it, I'm not. I'm about ready to just say screw it. I'm close enough for government's work. Now I'll just kind of roll her on. There. Got a little bit of a bleeding edge here, but you know what? I don't care. Make sure there's no real bubbles in it. Yeah, nice and smooth. What else is there to really point out? Honestly, nothing. I guess I should go ahead and plug it up and see how it does. Well, it's set up in its temporary location. I'm probably going to move it up on the table and move the A2 down here. Talk about the A2 here for a moment. Yeah, it's not bad, but it's pretty bog standard now, and it just has a few issues that, you know, I'm probably not going to use it as much. I'm actually going to give it away to a friend, but we're here to talk about this one today. So yeah, let's see what happens whenever we flip the power. Oh, beep beep. Zara, what are you saying? Okay. So it booted okay. Let's see what happens if we, Yeah, let's just kind of, let's see what version says. Okay, apparently, oh, version Anet 2.0. Okay. That's pretty weird. 2.0, okay. They are moving up in the world. Okay, let's prep. Preheat. And it appears to be preheating. Let's see what happens. Yeah, while this happens, we'll just kind of go on a few things. There's the X3. I've done a few things to it. It's not too bad. Here's the beastly AM8. Wahaha. Dual extruder. Tons of other miscellaneous stuff. This was actually my first printer. It was an A8, and now it is nothing from the original. So I can't even really say if it's the same printer. I think the only things that really remain are the X-axis and the screw, whatever the hell you call the things, those. Yeah, my brain's off today. Oh, and the end stops, which that one's been resoldered so many times. Huh. Okay, let's see how fast it's heating. You know, not too bad. It could benefit from a few things, you know. Beefier wires, probably. Let's see how fast this thing is really spinning. That's not too bad. So, you know, people often compare these to the X3, and here's the X3. You know, not too dissimilar. Let's look at how everything is really set up. So it has printed X. And it's odd because, well, obviously I have these feet on the X3, so it's going to stand a little bit taller, but they're almost the same size. In fact, yeah, they would be, because the tower is the same height. The only thing that the Anet here has is just a bigger bed. But I don't really think it's a CR10 clone. I'm going to keep bringing that up because all that controversy that came up from it. I really don't think it's a CR10 clone. I think it's just an evolution of this design. So really, they're not shooting upwards. They're kind of shooting in the same field as their competitors. So maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me if I am. So, yeah, it's getting pretty toasty. We should be about ready to print here in a second. Should I use the stock or not? Who cares? I mean, you're not going to be printing a lot with it, and you're not going to be using it, so why bother? So, with the power of quick cuts, you might realize now that the control box is on the left side. I realize that they want it over here because, you know, the extruder's over here, and it probably wants to feed easily. But they do have this little kind of tab right here. So maybe you can put it wherever you want, but it just seems a lot happier being on the left. And considering that my UPS is back there, less of a distance, less straining, you can move it around a little bit. I also just went ahead and cut down the Bowden tube. It was just way too long. I didn't like how it kind of curled around. It might not be a bad thing. I just don't like tempting fate like that. Oh, let's actually see what happens if we kind of get zoomed in here. Right. So what happens if we actually try to feed some filament through it? Come on. Okay. Position. Nope, they won't let you move the extruder very far. Well, here we go. Just gotta try to feed some filament in. Well, everything seems to be running. So I finally got the E-10 set up with Repetier server, and the heating times are just kind of really slow. It's creeping up there. I just did a PID tune, and yeah, it's not really wanting to heat up all that fast. I don't know if it's a problem with my machine or how everything's set up, but kind of unreal just how slow it heats. So I kind of worked out that it's the hot end cooler that's really causing it, because if you stop it, I just stuck my finger into it. It really heats up fast. So really that design is pretty bad if you think about it. It's enclosed and it just blows air downwards because of the way the hot end's designed. But I'm trying to test print, but I don't know if the stock firmware has any sort of thermal protection, but it's not kicking back up to 210. Even with the PIDs set, so I'm really not too confident about the way that's set up. But hopefully it does fine. So here's the finished print. It's pretty smooth. I have to take a picture and just actually show it, but it turned out really well. It only took about 2 hours to print too. So that's what it can do stock. There is some stringing up at the top. That could just be the filament and the fact of that the hot end's just kind of not coming to temperature like it should. Ah, come on, focus. So my closing thoughts, and sorry that's a cell phone video because I really don't feel like setting up my camera gear. The Anet E-10 got a lot of hate whenever it first came onto the scene, which was pretty recent, but you know, everyone said it was a CR10 clone. I have to argue that it's not, because it's a simple design. The X3 used it. Any extruded aluminum printer has that same, bed, tower. It's just the simplest design. It's like a car, 4 wheels and a chassis. I wouldn't say that my experiences so far with printing have been great. One thing that I have to point out is just the fact of the hot end cooler. It keeps it way too cold. I've had a few jams. I've actually I haven't really printed that much because I've had to pull it apart. One strange thing that happened last night too is I had a pretty long print running because I figured, why not? Let's try to trial by fire. The ferrule that the Bowden tube goes in just popped out, and it wasted probably a good 6 meters of filament, not to mention the print. It was already 20 hours into it, so that's a lot of filament wasted. And I'm not happy about that. I'm not sure how it came out. I guess it just back and forth, it just slowly worked its way out and just finally popped. But the print that I actually got, I just broke his ear. The print I actually got out of it turned out pretty well. This little fox, and the layers are super smooth, and it's a little thin. I might have not turned my parameters up too much. I think I had 2 of them on, and the infill is just a little weak, which beckons back to probably the hot ends just not coming to temperature. That's my main complaint. I'm really afraid to put anything like Marlin or any other sort of custom firmware on it, because dollars to donuts is probably going to just constantly kick thermal protection. But overall, if you just want like a printer to, take out of the box, put together quickly, and deploy, this is a good starting point. It just has a few things that do need addressed. Would I recommend it for people? Maybe, if you have a little bit of experience with it. But it's really hard to say. At the $300 price point, that's fine, but I've seen them on GearBest for like $350. Maybe once they fall down or they have some sort of promotional sale going on, then yeah, sure. It might be a good second printer. It might be a good first printer if you just want to screw with it. But I'm in the camp pretty much, if you are getting up into this range, you might as well go the extra mile and get something that's proven. But I really just have to hold it out and see what type of mods come out for this printer, because one, like I said, the hot end needs addressed. It's a bad design. I'm not even going to dance around that. I don't like it. But for what it does, and for the price, and for the ease of just putting it together, because any of their other offerings from Anet, I hate acrylic. The A2 was a little bit better, but at the same time, you have to adjust everything, and it's very easy to just get it kind of skewed. But the print quality, very good. It has potential. Anything from Anet, I'll pretty much say it, they always have potential, but they're never perfect out of the box. So if you're looking for something that's perfect out of the box, they're still not there. They're just